Welcome to Cruising With Kayfabe. I'm Mongo.
I'm Emily.
And today we are joined by Zak Knight, member of the legendary Knight family. Thank you so much, Zak, for taking the time today to talk with us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on, guys. I've been looking forward to this one.
Oh, absolutely. We have as well. We'll put it right out there. Both big fans. Both have watched your journey for quite some time and really excited to get you on to talk to you about your journey and kind of growing up in the legendary family, growing up in the business, and what's coming forward for you.
Yeah, I'm happy to dig in. Obviously, there's a lot to unravel. 25 plus years of wrestling and a lifetime of stories. So we might go over that 45 minutes if you're looking for a detailed step-by-step journey analyzation type thing.
No worries. We'll try to respect the time there. I don't want to make you go longer than we have to. I know I'm a very talkative person, so I don't want to do that to you.
No, you're good. I love it.
So I guess my first question is, most people say they grew up in wrestling, but you literally did grow up in wrestling. So what was it like kind of traveling with your family at such a young age and learning the business at such a young age?
So obviously I was born into the business. My mum and dad were already active wrestlers on the British wrestling scene, which was thriving. I was born in 91, and at that point they were, at the very top of the tree, working sort of 28 shows a month. I like to say to people, many people choose professional wrestling, but professional wrestling chose me. I was born into the industry and I've spent a lifetime on the road, going through different generations of wrestlers. It's been difficult. It's not as glamorous as people think, living out of a car in your kids' years, your early years. But I wouldn't change it because wrestling is who I am, and it is a big part of me.
You kind of weren't shielded from any of the bad. You got to experience all of it from the start. That's not good, but it's also not bad. So
no, you're right. So I'm 33. I debuted when I was 10 years old. I was active as a manager from 6 till I was 10. So I've literally grown in the business. And when you're a child in the business, you're still treated as an adult. So when I'm on the road with the lads and, maybe I'm 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever it is under the mask, these guys are still acting like fully grown adults and sometimes forgetting that this lad is a youngster. But I was treated like one of the boys immediately. There was wrestling is a tough business, and you have to grow very, very quickly. There's no room for an immature kid in the car when you've got hours and hours and miles of traveling. So I had to grow up pretty quick.
No, I can only imagine, trying to have the mental maturity at that age and trying to also keep the traditions and, professionalism alive. And, as big fans doing deep dives into wrestling, we know it's rich history, rich traditions. So to kind of go into that, everyone talks about the Rhodes family. They talk about the Harts. They talk about but no one really talks about the Knight family. And I just kind of want to know, they have such a legacy in wrestling. What's one thing you kind of wish people knew more about your family? Or your family contribution?
To be honest with you, a lot of people buy into the characters of the family. We're all very intense. We all work snug. We try and make it as believable as possible. We want to go out there and make people believe that we're in a fight. And I think sometimes, whether it's, peers in the business, whether it's the fans, they believe into the characters, and there's a lot of rumors and a lot of mud that's been thrown our way, a lot of shade. But people can't deny that we're very passionate about wrestling. We've done a lot for the business, not just in Great Britain, but Europe and worldwide. At the end of the day, it's been so long now that, we're sort of the outcasts. We're not internet friendly. We get a lot of stick, but we're used to it. And to be honest, we thrive off it. How people think they portray us, what they think they know. We just lean into that more. So if people call us carnies or, travelers or bare knuckle fighters or, just trash, fine. We'll be exactly what you say we are. We just steer into that. And obviously something's going well because, we're now 35 years in. There's 14 active members of the family, and a couple of us have gone on to the very top of the league. So, the family's doing something right.
Absolutely. And like you said, you lean into it. I think people forget it is a performance. It's entertainment, and controversy creates cash, to throw that cliche out there. So I don't know why people think they know everything just because they read an article or a headline, not realize that people are trying to report on something that it's meant to be deceptive.
No, you're right. I don't think it helps that, there's been a lot of demons within the family. We've all had our own journey. We've all had to face our problems and demons head on. My dad was a young scallywag when he was younger, hang around with the wrong people. The movie depicted that pretty well. He did do 8 years in prison before he was 25, but he completely changed his life around, and that was through professional wrestling. My brother had every chance of going on to be a professional footballer. He was scouted for, WWE, a phenomenal talent, and he was tip for top, but unfortunately his demons got in the way. And I feel like because we're so open as a family and we tell people, hey, we're going through this, or, we're born and raised council estate, and I don't think that'll ever change. We're very proud of our roots. We're very open and honest. We wear our heart on our sleeve, and what you see is what you get with the Knight family. And, over here, we're compared to Marmite. You either love us or hate us.
That's great. I love that.
I think it's cool that, it's talked about that you knew wrestlers by their boots by the age of 3,
Yes.
Which is absolutely insane. Our son, when he was 5, was doing everybody's entrance, and we thought that was impressive. But to know everybody by their boots, that's wild.
So wrestling's actually been an obsession. It's not a way of life for me. I'm obsessed with it. I'm watching it constantly. I'm studying constantly. I'm trying to evolve and come through the generations, because obviously I was taught old school, and, there's a load of variety of professional wrestling. Growing up, I was primarily on like family friendly shows for the biggest company in Europe, All Star Wrestling, doing 200 shows a year, but we're not very internet friendly, so to speak.
No, that's great. And I think that kind of leads into one of the questions I always like to ask. Where do you think the weirdest place you've ever performed is, like, or the weirdest venue or location?
There's been multiple places where I've turned up and thought, is there any chimney pots around here? We're so isolated. It's unreal. But I've done a lot of events, outdoor events. But I think the one that will always stick to mind is a place called the Cattle Market in Norwich, my home city. And the reason that will stick in is because the Cattle Market was basically a cow shed that they would empty out on a Saturday. And, I'm sorry about the language, but there's cow shit everywhere.
Oh, no.
This place literally is just a dumping yard. But every Saturday they'd empty the cattle out so we could set the ring up and, wrestle in front of 700 people. And people didn't mind what was on the floor. They were just so fixated on what was going on in the ring. But that's definitely up there. When people ask, I'm like, have you ever wrestled in a cow shed?
Wow. I actually grew up, my family raises cattle. I cannot imagine being in that. Yes, I can't imagine.
Oh my God.
You can barely breathe in there.
That's good. And we're blowing out of our asses trying to, get our wind back for the next spot. And there's just an aroma of cow manure, just, festusing in the air.
Oh.
My stepdad used to say that you had to, like, in the summertime, they would drink hot tea just to go out to manage the cows because it was so hot in the barn. I couldn't imagine wrestling in there.
Oh.
No, well, there you go. I don't think you'll have many guys say they wrestle in a cattle shed,
Definitely not. And
we thought that bar was the weirdest we've seen.
That one, I think, definitely wins. That one definitely wins. So what do you think it means for you to carry your legacy of the Knight family, wrestling in Mexico and all over the world and now in the US, and to kind of carve your own path and to be Zak? And, I'm part of this family, but I'm still Zak Zodiac. I'm still Zak Knight.
Yeah, well, that was a big thing during my journey was, I kind of wanted to separate myself from the Knight family name for the good and the bad. As we've just discussed, there's always something said about the family. 9 out of 10, what is said is complete BS, but we're kind of like the royals. We just don't ever retaliate, keep ourselves to ourselves, and what you believe, we know the truth type thing. You're gonna have to repeat that question because I went off track a little bit.
No, you're fine. I just what does it mean to you to kind of carve your own path, like your
Yeah,
own
that's
legacy,
it.
what you're doing? Sorry.
So I changed my name to Zak Zodiac when I was 13, simply because I wanted my own identity. I wanted people to see, look, you know, he's not living off the family name. He's going out there. I'm in a mask. You know, I'm trying everything I can to build my own legacy. And funny enough, once I got to AEW, you know, I'm saying to Tony, hey, my name's Zak Zodiac. And he's like, actually, you're Zak Knight here in AEW because we want to give your family the extra exposure, you know, and he's been really good that way. Both All Ins we've been a part of, and, you know, my family was treated as royals. But yeah, for me, it was always trying to make my own way. You know, obviously Saraya was the first female to go on and get a contract out with the family. You know, and there was a few males within our family that could have gone on and done it, but for one reason or another, you know, the stars never aligned for any of us, me included. You know, I've had multiple tryouts for various companies and it's never really moved forward for me. But, you know, I'm very honored and privileged to say that I'm the first Knight family member that signed a contract to one of the big leagues. Because honestly, we've all worked hard and it's a win for all of us. When one succeed, we all succeed.
No, I love that you cheer the success of everyone in your family, and that you know, even through all the setbacks, and I know you've been very open with your mental health and your struggles through all the setbacks, that you still come out and show a positive message. And I think that's really important in nowadays, is focus on mental health and, you know, support your fellow person. Cause like you said, you never know when the stars are going to align. And
well, no, you're right. No, you're spot on. And, you know, I'm glad we touched on mental health. That's a really big part of who I am. You know, I have my battles with mental health. You know, I've had a good 6-7 years where I've been in a really good mindset, got myself in better shape, and, you know, sort of shooting for the stars. But, you know, there's gentle reminders sometimes of them saying, hey, we're still there. What are you going to do today? You know, in actual fact, for the first time in a long time, when I woke up this morning, you know, and anyone that suffers with mental health will understand this. When you first wake up and think, no, I don't want today. I just want to lay in my bed. You know, and people, they think that's crazy. That, well, you've got everything in life. You know, you've got a beautiful wife, 3 kids, you got your dream job, you're traveling the world, you're being paid to travel the world, you know, but mental health can strike anyone at any time. You know, just because you have all this in front of you, that don't mean that you're protected from mental health. But anyone that's listening, you know, I woke up with that mentality this morning. I dragged my carcass out of bed. I drove my kids to school and I went straight to the gym, you know, and I got an hour and 20-minute workout with my wife. And as soon as we come back, she's cooking my breakfast while I've gone out for a 3-mile run, you know, so that there's steps to help yourself. And I've found that if I set myself goals, you know, if I push on the days that I'm struggling, not the days where things are all okay and, you know, I could go for a 6-mile run because I'm in a good mindset. It's days like today where you've really got to push yourself through and, you know, show the world, like, I'm not messing around here. On my worst days, on my bad days, I'm still out here grinding. And that's the message I've tried to put out there to the world, you know. Again, going off track a little bit, but as soon as I signed with AEW, the message is, well, he's there because of his sister. Well, they haven't seen the 20+ years that I've been going up and down the road for next to no money, or, you know, sitting there worrying about how I'm going to pay my bills. So I'm not ready to say, no, I give up on this dream yet. I'm still a young man. You know, so for me, it's always about proving myself. It's always about getting the message out there. Look, you know, yes, someone can get you to AEW, even though I was talking to her 8 months before she was signed, you know, but they can't do the work for you. I have to still put in the work for them to say, actually, we'll sign him. You know, the old saying of you could take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? And that's exactly the same in my career. You know, there's been times where you've really, really got to push, and you haven't got the crowd clapping you on when you're running the streets. You haven't got them clapping for you when you're in the gym. They haven't got them clapping for you when you decide you are going to get out of bed this morning. And they're the tough days that people don't see. And that's not just professional wrestling. That's entertainment as a whole. You know, we spend a majority of our time, you know, portraying someone else, method acting as someone else. Zak Knight is a very strong person, but Zak Beavis is actually very shy, very reserved. And sometimes, you know, the battle really is there for Zak Beavis, and you have to just turn that mindset on. I'm Zak Knight now. Let's get the miles done. Let's get the training done, and let's keep on track.
I love that. I love that you recognize you have to be your own biggest cheerleader and push yourself through on days that you don't want to.
And I want
Well,
to bounce off
absolutely.
like your sister getting signed. Obviously, like that was really awesome, but you were at one of her first matches and they hadn't even said your name yet. And I saw you ringside and I was like, Zak's there, Zak's there. Maybe he's going to be able to like do a dark match or something. And I was so
Oh,
excited. And then they recognized you on the camera and I was like, yes, that's something. Like that's something. That's so huge. Like they didn't have to do that. Maybe he is getting somewhere with them. I was genuinely excited and hopeful for you.
oh, that's lovely to hear. And you know what? I felt that as much as anyone else looking in that, had followed my journey and knew who I was, when that name bar come up and was like British legend or whatever it said on it, that took me back. I actually, when I watched that back with Saraya in our house later, maybe the next day because of travel, actually, the name bar popped up and I started getting emotional. And she said, "What's up, bro?" I was like, "It's just that there's kind of that pat on the back, there's kind of, that I can't think of the word, but, you're being recognized for your work.
Your validation.
There's that. Yeah. It's kind of like, we know who you are, buddy. We're going to put you front and center, and we're going to show the world that we respect what you've done in this business. And for me, straight away, that helped me understand that AEW were sniffing and looking because of what I had done. It didn't say Zak Zodiac, Saraya's brother. It was Zak Zodiac, British wrestling legend or 20-year veteran or something along them lines. So there was a real validation of, hey, this is his work. So for me, straight away, there was like that was the extra kick of motivation that I needed. That was November 2022. Yeah, at Full Gear. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So, I was already busting my backside then, but as soon as I see that was a real turning point for me. It was like, okay, I'm here. They know who I am. They've recognized me and give me the validation that every wrestler seeks in their career. What can I do in 12 months from now?
And you were at Wembley within that.
Right. So I was then at Wembley in August. I think I flew back out in sort of October, November in 2023. So I was at Full Gear yet again. And then February 2024, I'm signed. So a matter of 14 months of them introducing me on camera as, Zak Zodiac, a British wrestling veteran, to Zak Zodiac, All Elite. It was incredible. But make no mistake, them 14 months, I probably worked harder in them 14 months than I had the previous 15 years because I got stuck in a mindset for so long that, my work rate will speak for itself, but there's a lot of incredible wrestlers out there now that looks like professional wrestlers. And that one thing that was lacking in my department is I was a big boy. I looked legitimate, but I weren't in, an athlete shape, a wrestler shape where they could put you on a poster and people would know he's a professional wrestler.
I think that's something that Tony Khan also kind of gives to people is that, like you, he just loves wrestling and he studies every little thing about wrestling. And I think that's a really huge advantage that people don't understand if they don't know AEW enough to just know that, Tony cares about the actual wrestlers, the actual business, like his name as well, but theirs too.
No, absolutely. You're spot on. So I always say the best wrestlers are the biggest fans, because we're all still fans of the industry. Anyone that says, I hate pro wrestling, it's attention seeking. To be in this business, you have to love it. You have to, because unless you get to the very top, you're doing it for love and passion. You're not doing it for the money, the fame or success, because there isn't none until you get to the big leagues. And even then you got to work your backside off to get it. But Tony, he's a die-hard wrestling fan and he thinks about, as a fan, what would I want to see? And there's a different in opinions. You're not always going to get it right. You could put someone in a room, and there's a beautiful cake there and 10 people tuck into it, but 3 or 4 might say, actually, I don't like this cake, but the other half are saying, this is the best cake I've had in my life. You're never going to please everyone. But what I love is Tony's, making sure the roster's okay, his loyal fan base, and he's also trying to reach out to them casual fans now and be like, look, this is what we do here. It's not the fans booking as such, but it still feels like this is a fans wrestling company. And I love that. I love that the fans, their voices are heard.
I'm a waitress, and I'll tell people, like, the other night we were going to a wrestling event around here, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to wrestling tonight. I wasn't shy about it like I used to be, and AEW did that for me. I don't have to hide that I'm a fan anymore. And they're like, oh, like WWE? And I'm like, actually, it's a little different. It's like less story, more action. Like, I never know how to not, because I don't want to knock on WWE. They've done wonders.
No.
They're great.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the wrestling aspect of wrestling. So for us to be like, well, we're going to Deadlock Pro Wrestling. It's right down the road from here. Like, it's different for us with AEW as well, because it's like, well, do you remember the wrestling you saw as a child? That's kind of what we're watching.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what I put to people, you know, this is like a modern day sort of attitude era, you know, they're doing stuff that you didn't think you'd see on TV in 2024, you know, and it's very appealing, you know. So WWE, they've got their catchment target, they know what they're looking for, and they're very successful at what they're doing. And AEW, they've got their own fan base, you know. But for me, I love professional wrestling. That means all professional wrestling. There's no style that I don't like, you know, and I feel like that shows in my work because, you know, every style I've sort of amalgamated into what I now call my style.
And you train that way as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, to be honest with you, I probably train harder now, 33 than I ever have, you know, because there's that real pride there now that I want to leave a legacy. You know, everyone wants to be the greatest wrestler of all time and everyone wants to leave their stamp. But for me, I just want people to be like, this guy loved professional wrestling. You know, he studied, he went through, you know, I've already been through 4 decades of wrestling when you think about it. You know, and wrestling changes so much, so rapidly, so quickly. There's always a cycle, you know, whether it's 6, 7 years, you'll have this style of wrestling, then something else will come in and then something else. And as a wrestler, you're always trying to catch up. But luckily for me, I was young going through all the changes, you know, and I feel like my style I do now, which is a very intense, nasty, you know, bringing that realism. Yeah, I'm very big on realism. I love to go to the ring, you know, and whether there's 3, 5 or 10,000 people, if I can get 10% of them to go, did he just punch him in the face? Like, is this real? This guy's unhinged. This guy's a hooligan. This guy, you know, he'd be going to prison if this was outside. I love bringing that intensity and that aggression back into professional wrestling, that unpredictability that us as fans used to sit and go, we don't know what's coming next. Do you know what I mean? I miss that. That's what I try and implement in my matches now.
It sounds like the lady at AEW a few months back behind us. She's going, it's fake blood. It's fake blood. And I just looked behind her. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I think we've all got the scars to prove that, you know, it's definitely not fake blood.
No, and I love your style. I think one of the first things I showed her a while ago was your clothesline, where it looks like you decapitate people with that. And I told her, I'm like, if there's one move I don't think I want to take from him as a chopper or clothesline, because it just looks like you're just getting laid the hell out with it. And I love it because you say you work snug, you work stiff, but I think it adds to that. Holy shit, did he just take his head off?
Right. And that's what I'm trying to get out of people. You know, again, I've said this a couple of times throughout this week, so I've done a few podcasts, but, you know, for me to go into AEW and, you know, I can fly, I'm 17 stone, I'm 6'3", I can backflip. But why would I do that when the greatest high flyer in the world in Will Ospreay is in AEW? I can go back to British technical wrestling. But why am I going to do that when you got Daniel Bryan, one of the greatest technical wrestlers in the world, in that company? I've gone around and done hardcore and death matches. But why am I going to compete when Darby Allin's there? You know, so it's coming in and going, okay, what do I bring? You know, what does someone look into AEW and go, I can't do that because Zak's got that sewn up? And for me, it's intensity and believability. You know, if you need someone to go in there and make, you know, cause silence through violence, I'm your man, you know, because I know I can make people feel uncomfortable where they're going, well, I've turned up here thinking it's fake, but this guy looked like he's really eating this person up. And to me, that's my skill. That's why I got signed, you know? So It's working out why you've been signed and doing what you're good at, and not trying to do what everyone else is doing to be popular.
No, I love that, because I think it's kind of a lost art in wrestling to find your own style, your own niche in the ring. And I love that you've talked about in the past that was one of the things you used to do on the shows in England, where if they needed you to be the high flyer of that match and wow the crowd, you would, or if you had to be the person who was brutal and grab some, plunder under the ring and beat the crap out of your brother in the ring, you would.
Yeah, but the thing is, I was brought up where, each match was the build towards the main event. So, match one was educating the audience on who's bad, who's good, and why there's a referee. And then match two, you'd dial up a little bit. Then you'd have your first half main event, but you still wouldn't brawl out the ring or do anything too crazy because you're building for that last match. So every match had a rhyme and a reason. The match just before the main event, we used to call that the schoolboy match, which is where you bring the crowd down on that roller coaster to the point where actually they're bored. They want to go to the toilet. They are looking at their phone. They're using that time so that when the main event comes, they're full of energy again. That style of wrestling, I believe, has changed over the years. Every match is now a match of the night contender. And that's why wrestling is so successful at the moment, because people ain't waiting for the main event now. They're the main event, whether they're first, second, third, or fourth. And, just that, what do you call it? That competitiveness is what makes AEW such an amazing locker room. It's because you've got to go in there and have the best match. Because if not, you're left off, but I do like the old style of where the matches mean something and you're building towards it. And I believe that's why, I'm kind of the impact sub, as we call it here, where I could come on and I can make an impact, or I can do the job that's asked from the manager. That's what I feel makes me valuable.
Is there anybody in the locker room at AEW or Ring of Honor that you're really looking forward to getting in the ring with?
To be honest, I want to fight them all. There's no one. There are, of course, there is. I'd love to go and work with Brian. Especially if he is slowing down and there's only a few matches left. If he can get back in the ring, of course, I want to tick that off my bucket list. But yeah, for me, any of them, literally any of them, because I know it's a slogan where the best wrestle, but seriously, these guys are phenomenal. They really are amazing athletes, and it would be a pleasure to step in the ring with any of them, from Darby Allin to Orange Cassidy to Dante Martin, to Brian Keith, the bounty hunter, to Chris Jericho, like Big Bill, you name it, all these guys. I would love, my ultimate dream is to have a real carve up with John Moxley. I want to get in there and I want a toe-to-toe, no rules, just two guys beating the living shit out of each other. For me, that's money. And two, I know that we could both take it. And, I would sign that dotted line whenever he's ready for it.
You could take that championship. He's not, showing it off.
No, it's very true. It's very true. But let me tell you, a lot of people, everyone in the locker room wants to be world champion, and rightly so. You need that mindset. However, my goal is not, to become world champion the next 2 or 3 years. Of course, I'm going to say I'm going to be champion. My goal is to cement myself as a core member of AEW, someone that, when I'm coming out weekly, you're going, all right, we're going to get entertained. Whether he's the champion or whether he's winning, losing, whether he's got a 4-minute match or a 14-minute match, we're going to get entertained by Zak Knight. That is the title that I'm working towards.
No, and I think you're doing a hell of a job. I love when, to kind of go back to Wembley when, they showed you and your family when, Saraya won the title, just how cool that must have been for you. 80,000 people in Wembley just screaming for the Knight family, screaming for your sister. And then a year later, you get to accompany her to the ring with your whole entire family again, and as part of the Outcast, as part of a roster. So what were those kind of moments like in hindsight in comparison?
So that first year was a bit of a bubble, it was a bit of a blur because that was the first time. So I'd actually signed a per appearance contract with them in the July. So when they asked me to come to Wembley, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm on a per appearance. Am I going to be in the casino, battle royal, which I knew they were doing? There were so many different options. Is it going to be a dark match? What's going on? I knew that Grado was going to be there doing something. I'm thinking, could I be in there? So you get yourself worked up. But to be honest with you, when we come out to We Will Rock You by Queen, Saraya come out and then we come out like gladiators behind her. You know, I know we were being told in the earpiece, move forward, but all of us were just like, no, like 81,000 people. We've worked a lifetime for this next minute. We want to embrace and enjoy it. And none of us dreamed that we'd be doing it again the year later, coming out as a family. I had high hopes that I may get on the show. But I come back to the UK in June. I needed a bit of time off for personal reasons. You know, as we've spoken about mental health, you know, I felt like mine was dipping a little bit and I wanted to take care of that. As well as my wife and children. I'd been on the road for 9 months. I'd come home maybe 25 days in them 9 months. And, you know, it's 2-3 days here, 2-3 days there. And then primarily when I'm not working, I'm in an Airbnb on my own, you know, so things just got crazy, truthfully. But Tony was brilliant. You know, he said to me that I can have until all in off. So I got about 6-7 weeks where I could be home, recharge, get things sorted. You know, and again, I can't thank him enough for that. And then August, I was cleared, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm cleared. And we've got Cardiff and we've got Wembley. You know, I'm probably expecting too much, but every wrestler wants to, you know, dream of being on there. And now it's that waiting game. As we've said, they've got the best roster in the world. You know, no one can walk out and say, I need a couple of weeks off and expect to come straight back to where they were, you know, and I was doing well. I was getting to where I wanted to be. But unfortunately, you know, this time period where, you know, I needed to be off for medical reasons, you know, sort of caused a halt. But I'm very confident once I get my next opportunity, you know, we'll get the ball rolling again.
No, I think so too. And I'm going to be a little selfish. I know I'm going to project out another like year and a half or so, but we want to go to All In 2026 when it comes back to the UK. We've never been to the UK. I want to put out there, you versus Kip Sabian. I think that's been my dream. I think I tag you guys on Twitter every year, you versus Kip. I'd love to see it because I know you have history with him. What were your thoughts about if you and Kip got to go at it at Wembley?
So it's funny. I would love to work Kip. I was Kip's first ever training session. It was in Galsden at the Ocean Rooms. We were putting a show on, and Kip used to do a bit of backyard, and he turned up to take a session with me. And I think there were 7 or 8 guys there. Kip loved it so much that he ended up joining my family training school, you know, and we've had some real phenomenal matches over the years, but we haven't worked in many years as well. So, you know, to see Kip's development, to see how good he's got, for him to understand the little things that maybe at one point, you know, I was a bit more clued up than he was, to actually step in there with him now when he's in his prime, doing some of his best work, especially at like a Wembley or even just any UK show, you know, that would be a full circle moment. And hopefully that comes true. You know, we're definitely both up for it and want to push for that to happen.
See, I'm more selfish. I want the intergender match. You and Saraya versus him and Penelope.
Oh, there you go. Again, that would be a great tag match. But there's plenty of mixed tag teams in there when you think about it. You got like Taya and Johnny. You know, there's so many. Like my brain's now going, there's this person, that person, you know. But a mixed tag division in AEW could be unreal.
I know Tony's talked about it before, how it just is like a bad look sometimes for the men and women to be in the ring together. But on the second cruise, they did a match with Kenny Omega and Rio versus Kip and Penelope. And it was my favorite intergender match I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, Kip and Penelope together are magic. And then you're adding in Kenny Omega and Rio. So, I mean, that was amazing. But yeah, I've always wanted to see more of the intergender matches, especially where we watch a lot of independents where they do those.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So on the independents, it's not really, I guess on the independents, it's purely down to the promoter. But with Tony, obviously he's got the TV guys that he has to speak with, and you know, maybe they don't want to showcase that on the channel. Like, it's not anything I know, it's just me maybe observing or trying to come up with some idea to why this maybe not be happening. But you know, there's equality in everything now. We're in 2024, and we've established that women could do just as much as men, if not better, and they're stronger physically, mentally. You know, I always say my wife is 10 times the man than I'll ever be. You know, she's a real tough cookie, and you know, I believe nowadays we've probably got a better chance being able to go in there and do, you know, mixed tag team matches and having the women and the men, you know, go at it. And, you know, men will be a great base for women to really showcase some of their skills, and women will have that flexibility to make a man look better in these submissions. They're honestly, they can complement each other so well. But we also have to remember that we also don't want to be promoting, you know, physicality either side. We don't want anyone to think it's okay for a woman to hit a man to hit a woman, you know. And unfortunately, you know, people will look in and be like, well, I see it on AEW or I see it on this show, you know, if he can hit her and it's on national TV, why can't I? So I feel like we have to be very careful, and there's a fine line. You know, we don't want to be promoting anything to anyone, whether it's children or, you know, domestic abuse, whatever it is. There's a fine line that we have to make sure that we're not crossing.
No, definitely. And I know you have a lot of experience, obviously, working with everyone in the ring, because, you know, you're big on training. And that's, I think, one of the things that I really fell in love with as a fan is not only is he really good in the ring, but he's trained so many people. I mean, just looking at the list of what you and your family have trained, from Anthony Ogogo to Kip Sabian to Alex Windsor, I'm just blown away. Who do you think that you've trained that maybe someone that maybe doesn't have the recognition yet, or that you're like, keep an eye on this person?
Yeah, we've got a few guys. Obviously, you mentioned some there. Obviously, Nick Aldis come through us as well, who's now in WWE. It's quite crazy out of how many people that have come to us that have gone on to be very successful in big companies. If I'm thinking right now, so I wouldn't say he's one to watch, because he's had too many injuries now. But someone I did have high hopes for was a gentleman called Brad Slayer. He was actually Kip Sabian's tag team partner. He's 6'4", you know, really good looking guy, natural baby face, you know, just oozes charisma, you know, and good in the ring. But like I said, he's had too many injuries now, and I know time is ticking on a little bit, but he's someone I want to give an honorary mention to, just because Brad has done sort of 18 years in the business and never really got the flowers that he deserved. Again, this may sound very I'm going to have to pick one of my family members. Well, two of them, in fact. RKJ is the greatest young talent that is unsigned in professional wrestling right now. And he looks the real deal. He understands it. He's a good storyteller. He's hard hitting. He just ticks every box. And my nephew PJ, you know, he's not too far behind either. He's just not as out there on the independents like RKJ is. But when I think of my trainer school at the moment, you know, I know it's very biased, but I can't look past my nephews. They're hungry, you know, and they're working hard to get it.
I love it. That was one of my favorite moments. I think this last summer, we were watching Rev Pro because the whole weekend, and we saw these two figures come in after RKJ's match. I'm like, that's Saraya and Zak. That's Saraya and Zak. When you guys took the mask up, I'm like, I knew it. I just knew it. It was such a cool moment. What was it like for you to come out and be able to kind of interact, kind of have that family moment at Rev Pro?
It was amazing. You know, Ricky sort of said to us, you know, you're here for the weekend, would you just pop in? And me and Sarah were like, yeah, of course we will. You know, we didn't want nothing for it. We were just helping Ricky out, you know. I was kind of gutted in a sense, because that was the first time I'd been at Rev Pro in a while. But as soon as I took my mask off, it was kind of, instead of like pop, it was like, oh, is that going to be Saraya? Is that going to be Saraya? Is that going to be Saraya? And then she takes her and it's like pop. And then they turn to boozed instantly. I don't know if you come across that way to you, but, you know, real heavy booze. And I remember saying to Ricky in the ring, maybe bringing us weren't a good idea. We're villain on AEW and people love to hate us. So, but it was wicked, you know, to stand with Saraya and Ricky in the ring in front of 4,000 people, coming back to Rev Pro, a company that, you know, 18 months prior to signing, I was doing so much for, you know, having some really good matches against people like, you know, Shota Umino and, you know, Trent Seven and, you know, Shah Samuels, people like that. It was just, again, it was very competitive and it had the same feel as AEW. We all want to be number one.
Awesome.
Is there like an independent that you really look for and you're watching right now? Like a company?
Independent company. Yeah, so strangely, I'd come back to the UK. There's two companies that I haven't worked for, one in the US, one in the UK, that I need to tick off my bucket list. One is Defy Wrestling in America. And the reason I say that is they actually were one of the companies that helped me get my visa.
Oh.
So they put their name to me and everything else. And, you know, I really feel like I want to go work there and sort of thank them in person and, you know, showcase why I was getting my visa in the first place. I'd love to do that. And over here, you know, I think it might come as a shock to a family or some fans, but truthfully, I want to tick Progress. You know, I haven't wrestled for Progress in the UK. I've wrestled for, you know, every major company in the UK other than Progress. So that might be a place where I'd like to go and, you know, just say, yeah, I got to work Progress when I was in the UK, because it's a growing company and the brand, the name is very much out there now, you know, and I'd love to just leave the Zak Knight sprinkle effect in the middle of the ring if they'd let me.
That's awesome.
I love that.
I mean, I'm going to be selfish again and say DPW Deadlock Pro. If they listen, love to bring you down. We'll show you some hospitality down here in North Carolina. We'll help you out down here and get you some good places to eat.
See, I've got some friends in North Carolina, so you know, I would love to come out there if I'm touring the US and dates line up. Deadlock, give me a message. I'd love to come in. Of course I would. I'd actually like to do a lot more US indie bookings. You know, I think sometimes people are afraid to even email because they're expecting you to skyrocket your pay because you've got the AEW logo next to your name. But, you know, and this is a message to all the promoters out there. You know, I want to work within budget. I want to give back to professional wrestling. I understand that, you know, these guys don't have television money. I understand that these guys are putting their hard-earned money up and it's a gamble. You know, I want to help them. I want to help more companies. I want to see them grow, expand, and doing better, because in return, you know, it's just healthier for professional wrestling as a whole. You know, so anyone listening, give me an email. Let's get some work booked in, and let's start giving back to a company that has really changed my life.
That's awesome.
I think that if I saw your name on a poster, I would immediately be like, I want to go right now. Like, and that comes from also being a fan, but your legacy holds its own. I think that if people saw your name, they would definitely gravitate to the show.
Oh, that's really kind. You know what? I don't take compliments too well. You'll notice I smile and nod. I'm like, thank you. But the reason is, you know, that also keeps me humble, because I still don't, it's not that I don't believe you. I just can't think that way. You know, I'm still thinking that I'm building a legacy. I forget about the 23 years that are behind me. I'm concentrating on 2025 that's in front of me. And there's still a lot of work to be done. You know, there's still a lot of people to win over, and there's still a lot of matches that I need to put in to, you know, keep climbing that invisible AEW ladder. But trust me when I say it's very humble, and I appreciate that. You know, it just means that I'm doing something right. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have had a movie made about your whole family if that wasn't the case. Let's be honest.
Very true. Very true. So whenever we talk about the movie, I always get a little bit edgy because, you know, it's based on a true story, as we know. But my side of the story, you know, was very much dialed up for Hollywood. I was the yin to the yang, you know, and some of how they portrayed me, you know, it actually kind of left me a little bit heartbroken. I'm not going to lie, because I'm not a drinker. I'm not a violent person. My sister never come back from WWE and had a match for me at a Christmas show, and, you know, I shoot pinned her or beat her up. That's not going to happen when you're contracted. Let's be honest about it. You know, the only real part was I didn't come to the airport, and the simple fact of that is I'm terrible at goodbyes. You know, when I leave to go to the US, I always ask, look, either do it really early in the morning or late at night, so my kids are in bed either way, because I can't say goodbye. It breaks my heart. You know, I'd rather just get on the road, send them a voice note saying, see you in a couple of weeks, babies. Daddy love you. You know, and that was the same thing for Saraya. It was like, I can't say goodbye. You're my best friend. You're like my twin. What am I going to do without you? You know, you're now starting this dream that we've sat and spoke about since we were yay high, you know, kids with dreams. You're now going out there, and a part of me felt like, you know, I should have been going out there to protect her or looking after her. And it was a very difficult time, but there was never any hate on Saraya. I trained her. You know, there was nothing but love. She succeed, I succeed. One succeed, we all succeed. That's the Knight family mentality.
I love that. And to kind of piggyback off that training, I had heard or read that you helped prepare her for her comeback in 2022 with
Yes.
BJ Whitmer. And so how did that kind of come about? Like, how did you kind of help produce that match and kind of get her ready to get back in the ring after so long?
So I got the phone call from Saraya, snot bubbles and tears everywhere, telling me that she's been cleared. You know, so we shared that moment together. Oh, I'm getting a lump in my throat. We shared that moment together because, you know, that was a real kick in the teeth. Someone having to retire at like 25 years old. You know, you're sitting there thinking, wow, you know, life can be cruel. You get signed at 18, one of the youngest ever, and then you're one of the youngest ever to retire. You know, that was a real bitter pill to swallow. But when we got that news that she was all clear, I said to her, I need to be in the ring with you. I need to feel it myself. I need to, you know, because I can't just sit there and watch this match biting and chewing my nails, not knowing whether one bump's going to paralyze you. I can't do that. I need to physically see it with my own eyes to believe it. So we flew out and we went to the Santino Bros gym. They got a lovely little setup there. They're very accommodating. So thank you for that, guys. And we were just rolling around to start with. And then before we know it, should we do this like we used to when we were kids? Should we do that? Should we do this? And we're having the time of our life. I then stayed there and we flew out. I can't remember what it was. Was it Newark? I can't remember now. Sorry.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so we turn up and Saraya's taking me in and she's like, okay. And they had all their producers and everything. And then Britt and Saraya said to me, hey, we want Zak to produce as well. I was like, really? They were like, yeah, like help us. And, you know, I put a few things, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I put a few things together, you know, and the match was fantastic. You know, it really was amazing. I would never forget the end of that match. You know, Saraya's won and apparently the referee has said to Saraya, like, Tony wants you to go straight to Zak because I was an emotional wreck. Like, she's done it. She's back and she's not hurt and the crowd loves her. And this is amazing. And I just remember just hugging her and just, okay, that's round one done. You've done it, kid. You're back. You know, it is a real special moment. But I've actually helped produce a few of Saraya's matches. She wrestled Tony Storm over here at Cardiff for the title. And I remember being there and, you know, the girls are saying to me, hey, we want to do a bit more British style. Have you got any ideas? And I'm like, I sure have. So I give them the start of their match when they end up doing the Russ Abbott and, you know, the screen pose and stuff like that. And it went down so well. In fact, I think the video went viral, the start of the match when Tony was doing the Russ Abbott and everything. But yeah, I love it. You know, if my wrestling career ended tomorrow, I know that I'd still want to be there as a producer or a trainer or an agent. You know, I'm professional wrestling through and through. You know, it is built inside me. I was born to be a professional wrestler. I was born to be in the wrestling industry.
I love that. Saraya is definitely one of my absolute favorites. She's the reason I even started watching wrestling again. So huge shout out to you because you helped do this. But yeah, like I think it's just been really awesome having you guys both in AEW, and obviously working together is really cool, but I'm excited to see more of you, even if it is Ring of Honor, just to see more of you on television as well. And hopefully they get that TV deal. Yeah,
hopefully, fingers crossed. You know, I know as much as you guys, if I'm really honest, you know, but having Chris Jericho as your champion, you know, that sort of, even me, I'm like, okay, they might be close. You know, if Chris is going to be the face of this brand and everything else, I think they're close. And I'll be really honest with you. I never asked to go with Saraya when I first got there. You know, I actually was doing dark matches. I was doing Ring of Honor. I was happy there. You know, but I was asked to go into the Outcasts, and obviously I'm not going to refuse that. No one in their right mind is going to turn down TV time or anything else. But for me, even when I go back January, if Tony say to me, hey, we're going to divide you with Saraya, you're going to have your own pass, you're going to go the Ring of Honor route. Once you've established yourself and, you know, you're your own name, then we'll bring you back with your sister. And I think I speak on behalf of me and Saraya. We would love nothing more than to be in a story together but on opposing teams. We'd love that, because some of the stuff that we would say, or how deep we would go, or, you know, if we ever actually got to step in the ring together, we're going to do stuff that no one else is going to be doing, because we're family. You know, her shots are going to be snug, and I'm going to be clenching my teeth waiting for that right hook, you know, and she knows that, you know, I'm not going to treat her any different, because she was brought up being trained by the males and with the males. And that's why her bumps are so on point. That's why she comes across as, you know, very intense and rough, and that brawl and edgy style, because she did train with the boys from a very, very young age. So part of me's hoping that I get my own path when I go back, but part of me really wants it to come back to a full circle moment where me and Saraya are in storyline together, but against one another. I think that would be a dream come true.
I'd love that.
I mean, the match that you had with Roy was absolutely killer. So I can't imagine where you and Saraya have that like close bond, just how much it would just be amazing. I'm speechless.
Look, all we can do is just, you know, keep being hopeful. Hope is all we've got, right?
No, I agree. And I would love that. And just to obviously respect time and wrap it up, we always try to end with, you know, one final question. We love, the reason why we started the podcast is we love hearing everyone's stories. We started on the Jericho cruise because everyone had a story. So I always like to ask, if there's one piece of advice you could give someone who's chasing their dream, or in any walk of life or wrestling, you know, what kind of advice would you give someone?
Good question. I would tell them, when you're on the verge of everything falling apart and you feel like you're getting nowhere, stick with it, because that's when the magic's actually happening. You know, when things are going great, that is exactly what's happening. They're going great. But in the real hard times, you know, I've actually said this on a podcast before. On my son's 8th birthday, you know, he's 10 now, so it's 2022, March 2022. I was ready to jack in. I was ready to say, that's it. The dream's done. That's 20 years I've been working for it. Nothing's happened. I'm done. And my son just looked at me and went, Dad, it's not if, it's when you get signed. I believe in you, Dad. You need to believe in yourself. And literally 6 months later, I'm at full gear on my sister.
Wow.
I was ready to give up. So my message to people out there, any aspiring wrestlers, you know, don't put a time frame on it. It took me 20 years to get signed. And when you feel like everything's against you, when you feel like giving up, they're the days that you have to work extra hard, because you're on to something. You're very close. But this is just, you know, nature, I guess. This is the world telling you, do you really want this? Because even at the top, tough days are extremely tough, you know, and it's all about mindset. So get that mindset, believe in yourself, never give up, one day at a time.
I love it. I love it. That's such a great message. I'm like, now I'm speechless, because that's very powerful. And, you know, being a big proponent of mental health, I love that you can share that. And want to thank you again so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Make sure you guys are following Zak on his journey. Follow him on Twitter, all of his socials, so we can see him back in the ring in January, maybe going against Saraya or Kip Sabian in the future. So thank you again, Zak. I appreciate it. And until next time, everyone, remember to always keep the kayfabe.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.